It's the Raiders Training Camp Podcast presented by SiriusXM. I'm Vince Sapienza. Raider Nation, it is game week. Yes, it's the preseason, but we are still fired up for the Silver and Black getting back on the field and taking on a different uniform. Their preseason opener on the road in Seattle on Thursday, and there is a lot to dive into, a lot to look forward to. But before we look too far ahead, let's look back at what we saw earlier on in the week during training camp. So following the mock game at Allegiant Stadium on Saturday, a successful simulated scrimmage, though not completely perfect. There was an injury to report. Lonnie Johnson Jr. was carted off with a right leg injury. His status moving forward still questionable at best. But as we looked at, all right, who's going to be the guy that stepped up, at least early on? Who's going to be the guy that got the first reps in place of Lonnie Johnson? Because Lonnie Johnson, technically not in the quote-unquote starters role at safety, but a guy that was going to see a lot of reps, especially when the defense went into their nickel situation. Because as we've seen throughout training camp during nickel, safety Jeremy Chin has kind of lined up as that slot corner, and Lonnie Johnson was the safety paired with Isaiah Polamau in the secondary. So who's going to be that guy? Well, early on in training camp, following that injury at Allegiant Stadium, it was Christopher Smith II kind of filling in that role. He's been a guy that is always kind of at the center of things, showing off the physicality and kind of towing that line of being physical during training camp, trying to make his presence known. But he was the guy that got the first team reps. Or I should say the nickel reps with the defense in place of Lonnie Johnson, at least to start. Now, how it plays out during the preseason in Seattle and beyond during training camp remains to be seen, but at least he's getting the first crack at it for Pete Carroll and Patrick Graham on defense. Now, also interesting of note, as the Raiders defense goes to kind of a base situation, it's Devin White and Jermaine Pratt as the two linebackers, with Jamal Adams as that third safety, third linebacker, or whatever you want to categorize him as, but he's down there in the box as well. So Landon Roberts, who's kind of wearing that green dot for the Raiders defense and kind of the centerpiece for that Raiders defense, is not on the field during that base set when it's Devin White, Jermaine Pratt, and Jamal Adams. Again, there are a lot of iterations and a lot of rotations of linebackers and safeties coming in and out and different things of that nature. One constant we have seen in the secondary, aside from Isaiah Polamau, Jeremy Chin, has been Eric Stokes at the cornerback spot. Darian Porter to Cameron Richardson continue to rotate at that second cornerback spot as well. So in terms of what the reps, what the rotation's going to look like in Seattle, who knows? In years past, Pete Carroll has been known to play starters, at least for a time or two during the preseason. So how much run that first-team defense is going to get, I can't imagine Max Crosby is going to get a lot of plays in that preseason opener or in the preseason in general. But for a head coach and a guy that preaches competition, it would be shocking to not see a lot of those guys in some capacity, however limited their reps are, on the field in Seattle, both offense and defense. So that's something definitely to keep an eye on. Also, we're continuing to keep an eye on the offensive line. You know, Jordan Meredith seems to have taken hold of that center spot. Jackson Powers-Johnson, Alex Kappa continue to rotate at that right guard spot. It should be noted, though, that in the last few practices, it's been Jackson Powers-Johnson who's been starting with the ones on that offensive line, and then there's been a rotation after that. So competition continues to be at an all-time high at a range of positions, and now we're getting at the point where when the preseason gets underway, now you're looking at those reserve players trying to make a name for themselves, right? Trying to forge a path to making a roster, whether it's on this team or somewhere else in the National Football League. So, while everyone, preseason gets underway, it's like, all right, let's get the regular season going. Not for these guys. There are jobs on the line. There are careers. There are livelihoods, whether it's here or somewhere else. So these are important reps. These are important moments and times and things of that nature. And again, with Pete Carroll, I think we're going to see a lot of the regulars. Maybe not a lot. Maybe that's a bad phrase. But we're going to see some of the regulars in some capacity, maybe as early as this preseason opener in Seattle. Should be exciting. I can't wait for this time next time we talk on the podcast, to be talking about what was a preseason game and figuring out all the details of how that works with what's been going on during training camp and things of that nature. But now is the time we got to take a deep dive with a different perspective. We've been talking to players the last few weeks about what training camp is like, but now it is time to get a national perspective of your silver and black. Joining us now here on the Raiders Training Camp Podcast presented by SiriusXM is none other than Cynthia Frelund from the NFL Network, friend to Raider Nation.
Oh, yeah.
Cynthia, how are we? Happy training camp.
Happy training camp.
Yeah.
This is the best time of the year, is it not?
It's
the
best.
There's still a little bit of summer left. We still get kind of that tiny little 3-day weekend sort of thing before the season really starts right at the end of August. So it's just like a nice warm up. Let's get back into it.
Yeah, before we dive fully into training camp on the Training Camp Podcast, I want to ask you from a national perspective, as someone who's been bouncing around different camps, talking about all the different teams, how wildly different is the perception of the Las Vegas Raiders today than 6 months ago?
Well, I mean, what was the day Pete Carroll got hired? Because was that even 6 months ago?
Yeah.
Probably, whatever. From that day, I think everything changed, right? Mm-hmm. I think that, when you have a coach with such a time-honored tradition and track record of building men, and then you really reinforce Max Crosby with a Geno Smith, so a counterpart on the other side. It's really interesting. So I think people are thinking, all right, this team should be good. This team has some assets. Now, then the draft happened, and a run game seemed to find its way here, and that's another area that should be quite different. So ultimately, I think it's I think if I had to sum up the national narrative as it's a shame they play in the AFC West because that is a darn hard division.
Yeah.
Maybe we had Gino on our NFL Network broadcast, and we had to bleep him out for something. So that's a bleep hard division.
No doubt the group that is here, though, in this division are excited for that competition. That's a word that Pete Carroll continues to use, is to compete in the competition, things of that. You got to be a witness to training camp with Pete Carroll and the Raiders. I guess, what is your initial rapid reaction to what you saw?
Couldn't be more different than in the years past when I've been here. Everything from just the extra energy you felt from the players on every single snap. And also, I've never seen practice end with jump ball competition. And it seemed like they were just having a lot of fun. And I think that it sounds very stupid because, we sometimes forget that this can also be fun because it's all business. And, you pay a lot of money to have your team has a nice roster full of the Max Crosbys of the world who get paid. And, you pay your left tackle, Colton Miller. That's all. But it's also fun too. So it was nice to see kind of a lightheartedness in with the hard practice. I just love the jump ball at the end. I would have gotten smoked, but it was fun. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, different competition is happening throughout the organization. You could see it. There's basketball hoops everywhere inside the facility now.
Yeah.
They're never missing an opportunity to have a competition to compete. Now, obviously, that's all great in the offseason, but as it pertains to what's going to happen in the regular season, how do you feel it's going to translate, in year one right out of the gate? Because Pete Carroll's talked about time and time again, they're not dipping their toe in the water. They expect to win a whole bunch of games right away and get this thing going.
I mean, it's a tough test right out of the gate against the Patriots. I mean, Patriots defense, especially coached by Mike Vrabel, is going to be a real test. But I think this offense has got something going on, and not just Brock Bowers, which we already know about. Newsflash, he's really good. But
still really good, yep.
Still really good. But I think now if you add some wrinkles and folds and some of Chip Kelly's interesting little nods to, all right, I saw a wiggle here, let's move a fold. He's just as crazy as Pete when it comes to refining and then redefining and then let's do it again and let's get just a tiny bit better. So I think you're going to see, especially on the offensive side, you're going to see some really on my fantasy roster, we got Jacoby Myers as a late round ad that I really liked. I think people are sleeping on him. Maybe I shouldn't say this to too many people. I feel
it's just
safe,
us. No one else
but I feel safe saying it to Raider Nation because they already know. but the rest of the country, I'm just not going to say anything because I want to keep it for myself. But I think that these wrinkles and folds will create an opportunity for a lot of points to be scored, and a lot of the command of the offense will be very interesting. And I think you'll see much more efficient running and also efficiency in terms of keeping the ball in the possession of the Raiders.
All right, so you went fantasy mode, so let's go there.
Yeah, we got it.
And we can't talk fantasy football without Ashton Genty.
No, you can't.
So
what are you talking about?
On Saturday at Allegiant Stadium, they held a mock game. 18,000 people saw the offense look good. Geno was in command. All that stuff was great. They weren't tackling. They weren't going to the ground. Ashton was very much involved in the offense, but you didn't get to see his true powers because his best powers is breaking tackles and the ability to absorb that contact and keep going. How high is the fantasy football community on an Ashton Jeanty?
I think they're very high, and rightfully so. I don't think he's overhyped. I'm not worried about rookie-ness. that's not a word, but whatever. I'm not worried about it. Is now. I'm not worried about any of that. I think he's fully worth the draft, the first round draft grade that he's been commanding in the marketplace. I think it's valid and it's justified. And I don't think I think he's right up there. He's just right up there amongst these guys who you want to be talking about in the same vein as to me, he's like a safer pick than Christian McCaffrey, because we know that Christian, there's that thing that happens sometimes when they don't play. So, I'm not going to say that word, but, I think Ashton Jeanty's in good shape to be a very huge contributor just right from the jump.
That thing that happens when they don't play. Never heard it described that way. I'm not going to say it either.
No, the thing that happens where they don't play.
Word.
Yeah. Not even getting the letters. What are you talking about?
Sorry. No. Just me, myself, and I. That's what I was saying. Cynthia, we're talking fantasy football. Brock Bowers was able to break all the records his rookie year that a tight end could, pass catcher could, for the Raiders in the National Football League. And he did it with a quarterback room that was below average, let's just in totality. With Geno Smith, we've been talking about how the floor is so much higher in the quarterback room, just at a bar level, right? So what does that mean for Brock Bowers? Do you expect the numbers to be even better, maybe more meaningful in those numbers?
I think I don't know if he's gonna 112 that's a
whole bunch.
That's like a lot, but but I don't know. I think the touchdown number will be higher. Mm-hmm. I think the use case. See, here's the thing about Geno that people don't talk enough about. It's his deep ball. The accuracy of the deep ball is bananas. Like, he's very good at deep ball accuracy. So if I can't say it enough, I haven't said it, like, that's where the stretching the field will change the dynamics. Now, does that mean Brock Bowers catches those? I don't know. But it also means that it will stretch the defense and create more space in where a Brock Bowers might more typically operate. Mm-hmm. That's kind of how I see it playing out. So I think that, red zone, please, like anything where you can get yards after the just don't worry. Like, all of those things still are intact. I just think with that deep ball, now we got even more space. You're going to give the man an opportunity to run for even more. And in the red zone, he finds space. So I mean, do I think it's 112? No, but I think it's very that the total production, and if you want to go back to fantasy, the fantasy number will be higher because the touchdowns will be higher.
And we've definitely seen in this training camp period for the Raiders, the red zone, Brock Bowers has been a big target.
Yeah.
Geno and Smith seem to have instant chemistry, which is instant ramen good for the silver and black. But I want to go to the defensive side of the ball. Maybe a little bit more question marks on that side of the ball for the team in terms of known quantities, specifically in the secondary. What is the number set? What is the worry?
Yeah.
What is the level of expectation from that side of the ball outside of a Max Crosby?
Right. Well, I mean, look, like, I actually think we're not talking enough about, like, some of the guys that got brought in the middle of the defense, maybe a little further back, like on the second level, Jermaine Pratt. Like, that's a really good defender that we're not saying enough about, and that does matter considerably. You got Jeremy Chin a little further back. I don't know what the corners are going to be like. I'm not going to – I don't think that's breaking news. That's the question mark, the secondary as a whole. But if you think about how you want to build a defense and you look at what has historically worked, having a good defensive front and then doing the middle of the defense, that actually has been helpful. And especially now that more teams, especially teams in the division, are really utilizing tight ends. Sean Payton's going to want to use his tight end. He brought in Evan Ingram, for goodness sake. Like, that's going to happen. You already know about, there's that guy. People talk about him. He's got a pretty famous girlfriend, like that would, and no like idea. I would imagine Jim Harbaugh. We know Jim Harbaugh wants to run the ball. So if you think about it, that kind of those spaces they addressed really well. But in this league, and especially in the AFC as a whole, stopping the pass is what you have to do. Yeah. Max can't get there every time, right? Like, as he can get there a lot of times. Let's be clear. And Max is terribly scary, and he's also really helpful in the run game. But the front of the defense and the back of the defense, they complement each other. So you need to have, as long as they can figure that out, and Pete can figure that out. But I'm not there.
100%. Yeah,
it's time honored. But as an outsider, and even as you've been to way more training camps here in Vegas than me, but I don't know if anyone knows the answer to that yet. That other than time will tell.
Yeah, I mean, we do know Pete Carroll's a tried and true type recipe, especially when it comes to the secondary. But you're right. There's a lot of I wonder what Eric Stokes, former first-round pick, hasn't stayed healthy. Can he do it here in Las Vegas? Darian Porter, third-round pick. Can he be the guy that kind of steps up in the secondary for the – but Jeremy Chin is a guy that kind of stepped up and became a known quantity in the NFL as the Commanders were going on their run late last year. He's kind of been the chess piece around
Huge Chin fan. But look, there's a lot of teams in this league that play with 5 defensive backs on every single down because of how much passing there is. So that's just where I'm
100%.
I'm not being offensive. I'm saying
no offense taken. But I think your point is valid in terms of the linebackers when you talk about Landon Roberts, Devin White, Super Bowl champions, physical linebackers. Jermaine Pratt played in a Super Bowl as well, knows what it takes. Without asking, what do you think the potential is of the defense? Because Patrick Graham was able to get a lot of good despite a lot of injury out of last season. What do you make of the defense as a whole in a tough division against the last place schedule?
I think a lot of it, the tone seems to be set really well. Obviously, when you have, it's so interesting. We interviewed Malcolm Koonce along with, we didn't interview Max Crosby today. I was back last week. But, you talk about who's Max's favorite player? It's Malcolm. Mm-hmm. And it's because of what he brings and the little things that he does and the prep and all those different things. So the tone will be set. I do think, and I'm an analytics person, I don't really believe in momentum per se, but I do believe in psychology. And I think psychology is, if they can have a little success, so start off really strong against these Patriots team, it's going to lead to more success. Because I think a lot of it is mental when it comes to the beginning of the season, right? Okay, not the preseason, right. Nobody cares.
We love the preseason.
I actually love the preseason too, personally, but it's not, whatever, don't worry about it then. But the point is they can get that chemistry going and kind of solve for some of the things where they maybe don't have the strength of their roster is in the secondary. So, if they can solve for some of those issues early and kind of get the communication down and the strategy down and the reads down, and, defense is about, eliminating things, right? I see this, so therefore it can't be this, right? If they can get that to be a little faster, I think just a little bit of momentum or psychology will really pay off there.
Max Crosby has talked about Malcolm Koonce as the best running mate he's had in his entire career, and that's a massive statement.
Pretty big compliment.
And that's a guy coming off a big injury, and they have a lot of high expectations in terms of him filling that void. So that'll be fascinating to watch. As again, there's a lot of different levels to this. You've had a bunch of training camp stops. Mm-hmm. Las Vegas is your favorite, obviously.
I love the city. There it
is.
The only I will say, the Lions give you a little bit of a run because they had a dog adoption there that day.
Oh, they had puppies.
Mm. So I'm going to next year when I come to this, I will expect some puppies, and then we won't have any. We will leave nothing unanswered because I have 2 rescue dogs, and one of my rescue dogs came from the Detroit draft. So I felt like I was meeting his kind of brothers.
So it's an uphill battle for us.
No.
From
you have
we have Pete.
You have Pete, but you also have this whole city. I love Vegas. It is never a problem to get me to come to Las Vegas. You want me here tomorrow? Okay. You want me to? Oh, done. I love this city. So and I love the way that the Raiders have really become. We were talking to everyone about. I'm like, every Super Bowl should be here.
Right.
It was the best.
It was awesome.
The best host city. This town is made for that. Come on. What do we got to do?
2029. I don't know. Maybe.
Now, if you really would have been planning this right. It should have been 2020.
You're right. This is on me. So
it is actually.
This is on me.
This is not. You should take the L here.
I will.
Because Tom Brady will be eligible for the 2028 Hall of Fame. So it could have been announced here in Las Vegas at Honors if they would have just made the Super Bowl the right year. If you could have just gotten the Super Bowl here the right year.
Cynthia, you're right. That's on me. I'll take that L.
Yeah.
My apologies to TB12, obviously. And my apologies to Las Vegas as a whole.
Just have to make up for it in 2029.
Before we let you go, as the season goes on, there's a lot of topics, a lot of headlines everywhere. Feels like the Raiders might be on the up and up.
Yeah.
At what point or what needs to happen before they are commanding the stage once again?
I think every team, the answer is the same, and it's just make it to the postseason. I think, or at least week 17 being a really meaningful game.
Yeah.
Week 18, whatever, your 17th game, being a really meaningful game that could mean a trip to the postseason. I think that's because, I mean, Brock Bowers already was one of one, and really offensive rookie of the year stuff. Like all of those things matter. But I think the problem that you have is this logo you have some Super Bowls. So there's some teams that, get a lot. They're like, oh, that's cute. Like you're kind of doing better, Lions. Like, but you guys have loftier expectations.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone in Raider Nation is like, we will settle for a trip to the playoffs.
Okay.
That's not what you guys are made of.
Fair.
Every single wall in this facility is about winning. Mm-hmm. There is no message here that's like, hey, we're going to settle for just like a little above average. We're good there. You have big expectations, and with big expectations comes a lot of, responsibility to get there. So, but I think nationally, every playoff team or a team that's really competitive at the end of the season.
Preseason or not, Pete and Gino getting cheered in Seattle on Thursday. Preseason opener for the Silver and Black.
How can you not cheer for them?
Anything short
kind of animals?
Of raising the 12 flag, right?
Yeah. What kind of animal? Like, it's not like some people are meant to be villains, and they they feed off of that. You have got it all wrong if you think either of those two people are meant to be villains. Like, Pete will I'm interviewing him, and I already worked out this morning because that's a flex on me right there.
No big deal.
But I'm I need to go win something today. Like, I need to go run again. Like, I could go run like another 5 miles because just talking to people. Like, so if you're saying, I don't know, they're not meant to be villains.
All right.
Bill Belichick needs to get booed places, but just because he's got that villain personality.
Places.
He wants
not just
it.
one place.
No, because when you're Bill Belichick status, you gotta good. You have haters. He loves them. I'm saying he likes it. It's just different personality types.
That's Cynthia Frelund, the NFL Network, friend to Raider Nation. Cynthia, thanks for joining us.
But not to Bill Belichick. Kidding. No, I'm just kidding. I like Bill.
Again, no one else is going to see this. It's fine. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching the Raiders Training Camp Podcast presented by SiriusXM. Stay with Raiders.com, Raiders YouTube for all your up-to-date podcast needs and anywhere else you find your podcast. We'll see you next week.